Hey there, tburrier from tburrier.com. Today we're going to talk a little bit about how to cross the generation gap in leadership. I just came back from doing a series of retreats, which is sort of a sweet spot for me. It's one of my favorite things to speak at and workshop with. I love the environment and it fits my facilitation style and allows me to really dig deep into topics that are meaningful to the group where they're more open to talk. And one of the things that comes up, there's a very specific leadership exercise that I typically do with groups that is mind-blowing. It just opens everything up. And in this particular exercise, one of the things that comes up over and over and over again from a leadership perspective is, how do I deal with the younger generation or deal with different generations, right? It's not pointed at a specific generation, because it's going to be different relative to the age and experience level of the leader who is struggling. And it makes perfect sense when you think about it. And in this video, I'm going to give you some understanding of what's really going on and a couple of really simple things to how to, because this shouldn't be an issue for you. It actually is an opportunity, because you have talent at your disposal that you may not be accessing. The things that you hear, right? And this has been true since the beginning of time. Every generation thinks that the generation after them has it easier. Seriously, you've heard it forever, right? And in some regards, that's true, right? In some regards. But I would submit to you, the only place that's actually true is materially, because of the advances of civilization. It's true. Each year, we have more comfort in more areas from a creature perspective and a material perspective than any generation before in the history of time. That's a fact. But that's where it stops. That's actually where it stops. In some ways, it's actually harder for each ensuing generation because of technology. And so, I constantly hear things like, oh, they're not motivated, or, oh, they're entitled, or, and again, this doesn't matter the age. It could be talking about somebody who's 20 or someone that's 50. It could be, oh, they don't have the same work ethic. Why? Because it's all around the lens of how someone is seeing people. And so, again, the key thing is it's always been this way. But if you think about the generations that come after, based on technology, they have it harder, because emotionally, let's face it, emotionally, understanding yourself, developing yourself, knowing where you fit in or how to fit together or what you're supposed to be doing on this planet or how to navigate relationships, that stuff is hard for everybody. And I would submit to you that in today's world of social media and mind-boggling inputs of information and marketing and images, etc., it's never been harder for someone to figure it out. And so really, the generations, each generation after you, regardless of how old you are, has actually had it emotionally harder. And that's a really interesting thing to understand, because they're dealing with more. And all I have to do is look at the statistics of depression and anxiety and the increase in those meds over the last 20 years. It's insane what's going on, because people are messed up in their head. So it's much harder. Right? It used to be a lot simpler, right? And that's part of the work ethic thing. Right? You just work hard, and you know what? That doesn't necessarily translate anymore unless you're working where you're supposed to be, inside of your strength zones, doing what you need to do. You're developing yourself, etc. And so the reality is, every generation has a work ethic. Everybody has a work ethic, right? If someone is doing something they care about and understands the meaning of that, they're going to work hard at it. So if they're not, that's on you. As a leader, that's your mistake. That's your labeling someone instead of going in there and trying to understand what's the raw material that you have. Now, granted, sometimes you have the wrong fit. But if you are in any level of leadership that understands the costs of hiring, you know that it's you should make your best effort to try to figure out, who is this actual person? Where do they actually belong? How can I get the best out of them, right? The same thing is with motivation. If you think someone is not motivated, you're missing the boat. right? That means you just don't understand what motivates them, and you're not attaching them to those motivations. You're not helping them understand how what they're motivated for, right, can be accomplished through what you have them doing. That's the bottom line. That same person you think is not motivated goes sprinting out the door when the workplace is done. At that moment, they become the most motivated person in your office, right? So it's your job as a leader to understand that their motivation is different than yours, and you can't expect their motivation to be in line with yours. Only a fraction of people are career motivated. If you think that they're career motivated as a leader and they're not, you're going to be having a different conversation every time. So let me give you a really quick how-to. If you want more, right, because this is a sweet spot for me. Teaching leadership and leadership communication is a sweet spot for me. So if your organization is challenged in this area, if you're challenged in this area, reach out to me. We can talk about some possible solutions for that. So real quick, 3 simple things that will help you get started along this path. One is you've got to invest time to learn what's important to them. You have to let them know you care about them as an actual human being, right? And when you do this, that makes a difference. And so you got to invest time to know what's important to them, because you have to help them connect what they're doing in your workplace to that. When you do that, you've now given them a reason to want to do well, a reason to want to show up. The second thing you should do is ask their input. They have an entirely different perspective than you, right? They have a different way of looking at things. As a matter of fact, in many cases, their input will be very valuable because they're not caught up, right, in some of the things that bind your thinking based on what you're around, right, and what you've been steeped in for years. They have a refreshing perspective on things. That won't make it right all the time, but it will make it helpful much of the time. And you'll show them that you're valuing them by asking for their input. And then the third thing is you need to find out what their strengths are. And you got to put them in that area, or at least allow them to use their strengths as much as possible. And again, this is going to all change the way they look from a motivation perspective. So look, this stuff is really not that hard. You just have to care about it. And you have to care about really getting to know the people that are in your charge. And if you take this to heart, the generations, so to speak, will be an asset to you instead of a challenge for you. Because having generations, having multiple perspectives is critical for success in the world today, because you're operating in businesses that serve everybody for the most part. I hope this was helpful. Feel free to visit my website at tburrier.com. You can check out the business training area, the individual coaching area. If you're in leadership and you're struggling in how to work with your people and you need coaching, let me know. I'm happy to do that. If you have a retreat coming up and you'd like to talk to me about being at the retreat, I promise you'll be happy about that. Anyway, so I hope you got some value from this. See you next time.